If only they knew. The hub for young business minds.
Welcome back to another episode of the If Only They Knew podcast. Today we're joined by Atto from Savvy Wallet, and he's going to share some wisdom about how he became more savvy with the money in his wallet and how we can do the same. Enjoy.
Myself personally, I wasn't really financially literate. And what I mean by that is that I didn't really, when I got a credit card, I didn't really understand what that meant. When I got overdraft, I didn't really understand what that meant. So I was quite reckless with it, in the sense that with my overdraft, when I had a student overdraft, just spent up the money, didn't really read the terms and conditions, ended up getting a default because I didn't keep the account active. So that had a massive impact on my credit score for about 6 years.
6 years?
Yeah.
No
So it
way.
lasts on, if you get default, it lasts on there for 6 years. So I was on that, and I was also on a payment plan. So that really woke me up to the fact that, okay, Ato, you need to sort out your financial matters. Managed to sort of turn it around by just reading and learning from friends and stuff like that. And then fast forward a few years, bought my house last year. And that, for me, that was a really big milestone, because I was like, wow, I managed to turn it around from being in serious debt to being able to manage to save over a 5-year period for property. So I thought, okay, I'm at the stage where I feel like I'm comfortable sharing this with other people. So let me do that. So what I do on Savvy Wallet is I normally daily do a post around a different topic, whether that's debt, whether that's saving, whether that's investing, whether that's improving your credit score, just to help people get a bit of an understanding. I try and make it as jargon free as possible, because in the finance world is very jargon related, and I guess a lot of people are confused by those terms. I don't know if it's done on purpose or whatever, just to confuse the consumer. I think it is, personally, conspiracy theory. But so that's what I do on Instagram. On YouTube, I do it used to be weekly, now it's two a week. So again, very similar topics. I talk about stocks quite a lot. I talk about investing. I talk about saving for your first property. And now I'm also trying to branch out into Twitter a little bit as well. So yeah, it's really good at the moment.
What I like about your page, we'll get into it a bit more in detail in a moment, but what I like about your page is the fact that you're, like you said, you sort of make it easy to digest, because like you said, there's so many bits of jargon that just before we started recording, I had no idea. I just don't know any of the terms. So if you was to sort of speak how, I guess, finance professionals will speak, if you was to speak to me like that, it would literally go over my head. I know the words you're saying, I've heard those words before, but in context, and if I had to take action from it, it makes no sense. And you sort of make it easily digestible. And you're also honest as well. I saw your video about showing the stocks and stuff you have. And it's good to see someone so open and honest about it all, So yeah, good platform, very good platform.
Thank you. So why do you think you don't understand it? Let me bring the question back onto you.
For me, I think primarily it's because I just wasn't really educated on just those terms in general, and I had in school almost no finance education. Obviously I knew numbers and stuff from maths, and we understood about how an economy works, to the bare minimum level in economics, but in terms of finances and all the terms that comes with it, and tax, for example, no idea how to sort of work around that in a real world scenario. So I think honestly it's just from the lack of education from an early age, which means that I was always catching up. And I don't know about you, but I feel like that's probably the case for so many people going through school. They don't learn about taxes as much as they should. They don't learn about houses, mortgages, stuff like that. All the important stuff is just sort of, oh, you learn about that later on, and then you never do. So I think that's where my misunderstanding of it all comes from.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's we don't get taught these practical skills that will help us from a very young age. So you've alluded to the fact that we don't get, we're not educated on finance, which is very true. We get to university, we have to live by our own, we have to pay our bills. We don't get the understanding of, actually, why don't you save some of that student loan aside for, for investing in the future? oh, did you know, by the way, if you get a student loan that you're gonna have to pay it back off? When I went, to uni, I was under the impression, I don't know where I got this from, but I was under the impression that it's gonna be interest free. How wrong was I? As soon as I started earning a certain amount, I got my bill through just to say, okay, this is how much you're gonna owe. And I'm gonna be probably paying it off for like the next 10 years. And I wouldn't say it's got like a massive impact because the amount they take isn't that much. But in the sense that even at that point, you don't even really take it too seriously or understand it. And now university is £9,000 a year. So the next generation, I'm going to be paying upwards of £30, and it'll be £30,000 of debt. So understanding all of these things, like, like what is debt, what is good debt, what is bad debt, what is savings, is really, really lacking in the UK. And the statistics are bare. Like, so Money Charity, for example, is saying that about 1 million people don't have no savings or less than 1,500 savings. Yeah. So, and then the average credit card debt is around 2,500. So that just shows you that we've got a real financial illiteracy problem in the UK.
Before we go into all of that and the reasons for it and how to sort of work around it, I always think, if you're okay with it, if we can rewind the clocks a bit and sort of see what you was like when you was a little bit younger. Like, was you interested in this area from young? Because I know you went to study law, is that right? And then you sort of switched up a little bit. So if you don't mind going back and telling us what you was interested in and how you got involved with this.
Yeah, so finance, I wouldn't say I was interested per se in finance from a young age. I was interested in business a little bit. I think when I was young, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I had like a little bit of affinity for law, so that's why I decided to study at university. But when I got to about 30, I was like, yeah, I'm not really too interested in doing this anymore, because I was really interested in criminal, like crime and stuff like that. I just thought to myself, my conscience, it just wouldn't land right with me, whether I was, prosecute or defending somebody. So I was like, okay, I can't do that. At the same time, I was really interested in IT, information technology. So I decided to do a master's at City University. It was like a mixture of business, IT and stuff like that. Got my first few jobs. I think the part that started getting really interested into finance was when when I had to basically overcome a debt issue that I had, which I've got a video on YouTube about it, over 3 months. So I got to a point where I was owing, like, I don't know how it got here. This is a problem of like not being financially literate. I think I was owing like 4,000 and I had to pay it in like 3 months. And I don't even know how I really got there. If you know what I mean, it's hard to pinpoint the exact. It wasn't like one big thing. It was lots of little things that led up to that moment. And I think from there, I started looking into budgeting, saving, investing, and from there I was just hooked onto it.
Yeah, it is scary though, how you can sort of rack up a massive bill like that without realizing. Like your phone, minimum about 30 quid if you're lucky, all the way up to, I know someone who's paying 90 quid for a phone every month.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I think the reason he did it because he was told that, whenever there's a new phone, you can just upgrade whenever. But 90 quid a month is a bit strong. Plus everything else, plus rent, plus if you've got a gym membership, all these things add up. And before you know it, you're spending hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, like in your case. So yeah, if you're not aware of it, they can sneak up on you, because it's so easy to say, oh, I'll pay for that monthly, or I'll pay for this monthly. And then before you know it, you're like, oh crap, I'm in debt, big debt.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like things like that. So your friend that's paying 90 a month, right? So he's probably thinking, okay, it's a brand spanking new phone. Why not? I can't believe that back in the days, if you said to somebody you're gonna have to pay £90 for your phone, they'd be like, what? But because we're so stuck to our phone, a lot of people convince themselves that, okay, because I'm gonna be using it all the time, it's actually worth it. I might as well spend like odd 900 quid a year. Why not? But if you actually calculate how much you're paying for that, if you were to buy the phone outright and get a deal, you're spending so much money, much more on it. So yeah, I used to work in a phone shop, so I understand what they try and sell. But the thing is, when I was in a phone shop, I didn't like to what's the word? I didn't like to take advantage of customers. I like to, if they wanted something, I'll try and steer get the best for them. I didn't try to look at my own pockets and line my own pockets and get commission out of it and just try and steer them to the top end, because if I didn't think that was the best for them, I wouldn't do that. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is mad. And the thing is, I went to get an upgrade the other week, in fact, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get pretty much the same deal I'm on now. But it's mad how, like, can you imagine a world? Obviously, there was one before, but can you imagine a world now where you didn't pay monthly for a phone? Like, you just spent a few £100 on a phone, and then that was it. Like, you just upgraded whenever, and you wasn't sort of tied into anything. Because I can't picture that. Like, I feel like it's right that I feel like it's obviously done on purpose. So you're tied into that, and that's it. £20, £30 minimum, going all the way up to, if you're crazy, £90. So yeah, it's easy to get tied into these things and sort of take them as that's the way it is. Like, oh yeah, I pay monthly for my phone, but why? You sort of you're not forced to. It's just that's what people are used to. I think there are other ways around it,
Yeah, and the thing with the phone industry as well is there's always an upgrade every year. So you're paying so much for a product that in the next year the value is going to be like half anyway. So that's how you're overpaying so much for it. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. And it's fair play to them. The marketing is so strong, it's so good. We've got this consumerism happening as well. So it's really hard to not go for a new phone. Like me, before I got my recent iPhone 11, I had my iPhone 6 for like nearly 4 years. I was like, I'm not gonna, I was like, I want to save money. I'm not gonna spend 50, 60 pounds for a new phone that's gonna be upgraded. And I waited for it to slow down a lot, for it to get really old, until, finally I was like, okay, cool, I can get a new one now.
Yeah, that's what I did. I waited until the very end when it started bugging and stuff and started crashing. I was like, oh, maybe I'll have to upgrade. But again, they probably do it on purpose. But talking of like the current situation, like with the phones and stuff, in terms of the current global climate, obviously there's something going on called the coronavirus. Don't know if you've heard of it. And a lot of people are obviously like devastated by it. But in terms of people like traders in particular, it's a bit of a sensitive topic, but they've almost found like the positive in such a massive negative, because I know people that sort of, when it all started coming out in the news earlier this year, at the start of the year, sort of banked on certain things, and then now they're reaping the rewards from it, and vice versa. Some people made the wrong choice and then they're paying for it. But a lot of traders in particular made a lot of money off of this pandemic. And I just wondered what your thoughts are on that. Like, is it a case of just seeing the positives in such a negative, or is it a bit of a touchy area to go into?
I mean, at the moment I invest. I think it really depends on you as a person. I think I do understand why some people would think like, oh, it's a bit, taking advantage of, the economy's demise and the fact that we're going through a pandemic. But I feel like in any sort of crisis, you have to kind of look for opportunities. And if there's an opportunity for you to make money, especially if it's an ethical way, like for instance, clean energy businesses are getting invested into, technology businesses are getting invested. How we're speaking through Zoom. Zoom was one of the beneficiaries of the pandemic. Its share price has gone up.
Yeah.
So it depends on the perspective that you want to have. You want to have a negative, oh, people should be able to make money. But then again, you are using some of these tools that enabling us to kind of be distracted from this pandemic. Like, we have Instagram lives, we have all of these things that have helped us, distract us from actually what's going on outside. So I think for me, I don't think it's a touchy subject. I think it depends on what you're investing into. Now, if you were saying to me, okay, we're investing in something that was going to be detrimental to the world, then fair enough. But it's not that, right? Yeah. So I think it's been good. I've been happy to see a lot more millennials, let's say, get into the investing world. I think the caution thing I would sort of, be cautious with people is to be careful what they're investing into, because I think a lot of, you've got these Robin Hoods, Trading 212, which I talk about and I use, got Free Trade. A lot of the millennials use it because they're very easy to invest in. It's cheap to invest in there, and you can buy like fractional shares, so it means a part of a share. And because it's so easy to do that, a lot of them are getting carried away with, buying all sorts of stocks, and penny stocks especially are really popular with them because they're under £1. So they feel like, oh yeah, I can buy 100 if this goes up to £10 and I'm going to be a thousandaire or millionaire. So some people are getting carried away with it. So that's the only concern. But aside from that, I'm happy that the barrier to access has been lowered massively, because I think previously investing was seen as more of an elitist thing. Even all the books that you read, that's what it was. It was elitist. Back in the days before you could use apps and websites, you had to basically have a relationship with an investment manager to be able to invest. So it was really elitist, but now you don't really have to have that anymore. So there's been lots of positives, I would say, over the last 6 months to a year.
Definitely. And on the point of trading, like, I think I'm glad you sort of put that caution out there, because a lot of people, I've been involved in like the young business minded like community for the past 3 years or so. And I've seen so many people like just fall victim to the guy on Instagram that's like posing next to the nice cars and showing off his Balenciagas and showing off this, showing off that. Then like underneath every message, it's like, oh, join my trading group or whatever, or join this, join that, or give me this amount of money and I promise you you'll earn this. And then after a few months, they just disappear off the face of the earth. And it's because they're scamming so many young people. And like I said, I'm glad you made that caution, because a lot of people will just, they see something especially on social media, like, and they see that as like the ideal thing, and they could put that person up as their idol. And that becomes just a tricky situation, because once you start really wanting to be in someone's shoes, you'll almost it gets to the point where you almost do anything to get there. And no matter what that is, even if it means spending thousands of pounds with the promise of earning more money. I mean, if it was that easy, we'd all be millionaires and billionaires. If there was always a promise to put 1,000 in and then you get 10,000 back, why hasn't everyone done it?
Exactly, and that's the thing. I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is very rife within the young community. They like to prey on people who don't understand. And in fact, I get a lot of messages on my personal Instagram and on Savvy Wallet, people trying to offer me investing. There's people commenting on my posts trying to offer, speak to this trader, they made me 1,000, and all of these sort of scammers. But I leave them there because I want people to understand that these people are scammers. The thing is with investing is it's a long-term game. It's always a long-term game, and that's what I preach to people. You have to realize that this is a long-term game, and that you can actually lose your money tomorrow as well as gain money in 5 years. But you have to be, disciplined. You have to think long-term. You have to diversify your risk. There's so much to it. But again, this is why I cautioned earlier that, Robinhood, Trading 212, Free Trade has made this a lot easier. So as long as, that message gets through, I'm happy. But yeah, I do agree. There's a lot of scamming happening, and people still fall victim to it, unfortunately, because they want those quick gains. And Instagram doesn't help either. If you got somebody flashy, like I could literally go and buy, I don't know, Prada or something, pretend that I've got them, and then go and return them to the store or borrow it, for example. So a lot of people put so much emphasis on that Instagram lifestyle, and I just think it's just not, what you should aspire to at all. You should aspire to be, financially wealthy, achieve your financial goals, and live the life that you want to. But don't think, for a second that it's all about trying to show off to people. And I made a post, I think, about that recently on the weekend, about billionaires and how long it takes billionaires on average to achieve that status. So I think it was 23 years it takes them to achieve that. And in my caption, I specifically said around basically, who are you trying to show a Ferrari to? Why are you so quick to show a Ferrari to people? You shouldn't have that sort of mentality. And if you have that sort of mentality, more than likely you're not going to get there. So that's my message to people.
Yeah, I think it's related to that as well. Like, I've tried very hard not to show off certain things and not to buy things to show off, if that makes sense. I've tried, like, when you go into a shop and you think, oh, I like them trainers. And then in the back of my mind, I try and think about it. Why do I like those trainers? I like those trainers because they're the ones I see on Instagram all the time. And they're the ones that people are like, oh, did you see that guy with those like the Louboutins or whatever it is, like. And I think, no, I don't want to fall victim to that, just that mentality alone. Even though it's only me I'm affecting, I don't want to fall victim to that mind state of having to go out of my way to spend more than I have to impress other people. And it's the same with, like, you said you bought a house, right? You said at the start you bought a house. Like, yeah, like I'm like almost there on the journey to buy a house. Like, I'm almost there. And I feel like it's because I've sacrificed certain things. Like, I've had the same car. Like, I've got a Ford KA, and it's like the amount of times it's like broken, and I smash it to pieces basically, and I just don't care, because I think, you know what, what's the point of me getting a new shiny car to show off with, when all that's going to do is put a massive dent in all the savings I've built up over the past few years, and then put me 10 steps back just to get 10 more likes on Instagram. And I wondered what was your like thought on that whole process of like buying things to show off, or just staying quiet in the background to then save for the long term or more short term sort of things. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, so I'm a fan of that. I mean, personally myself, I don't show off on Instagram. I don't show off anything really. Even to talk about me saving for my house, it was quite difficult for me to talk about that because I don't want to show off. But I think the reason why I did talk about it is because I wanted to inspire other people that this is the process, these are the steps that you need to take, and you need to understand that if you want to do this, you need to focus and you need to be disciplined. So yeah, I agree that it shouldn't be about like trying to impress others. And I think we all battle with that, you know, from time to time. Even though you're saying that you want to save your house, you kind of at the same time want to show your success. Oh, but I've done this. Give me praise. I think it's a little bit of a natural human thing, but you have to at the same time, like you said, when you went to the shop, okay, why am I actually doing this? Is this actually going to be beneficial to me? And that's what I always advise people. Is this going to be beneficial to you? You want to buy this, I don't know, you want to buy a new bag, right? Chanel bag. Okay, why? Why do you want to buy it? Okay, cool. If the reason isn't good enough, wait a week, decide in after a week, if you're still having that fear of missing out, want to show off. If you don't, then don't buy it. It just shows you that it wasn't strong enough, because what ends up happening is you buy it, a month, 2 months later, the gimmick's gone. Nobody cares that you've got a Chanel bag. Like, so I just think it's just, you should do things for yourself and not for other people. If you want to get a Chanel bag because you like a Chanel bag and you like the way it looks for you, fine, go for it. But if that's not the reason, and the point is that you want to go into Instagram and you want to show off and you want to get 200 likes, you want to get 300 likes, then you're literally bankrupting yourself for social media. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah, you're right about the gimmick. Like, I've bought, like, back in secondary school, I bought a few things, like a jacket or whatever, and I'll be like, oh yes, this is it. Like, my life's gonna change. Everyone's gonna love me when I buy this jacket. I spent like £500 on the jacket, wore it to school, and like no one even looks. And I'm like, oh guys, like, I got a new jacket, come on. And then like literally after a week, I'm hating myself because I think I just wasted like £500 or whatever it was on a jacket that no one even said like, oh, that's decent, that's a nice jacket, whatever. And it had no benefit. It was terrible. It was a terrible fit. And I just thought, oh, you know what, I'll give up. And ever since that moment, I thought, nah, this is it. I'm just going to buy what I genuinely like and what I genuinely find useful or whatever. Then I'll consider buying it. But anything just to sort of be uncomfortable to show someone else that I'm comfortable, like with money and stuff, I think, no, forget that. But
Exactly.
It sort of brings me on, if you don't mind, about the importance of budgeting, because I saw one of your videos, one of your clips, and it made me think, like, budgeting is so important, and it's quite easy to do if you just sit down and sort of work out what you're playing with, like what cards you have, how much money you have coming in, how much money you're going out. So I wondered, what's your take on budgeting?
So budgeting for me, I was thinking about it earlier today. Budgeting is key to everything in your personal finances. Without a budget, you literally don't know how much you can save. You don't know how much you can pay off in terms of your credit card. You don't know how much you will need if you need to achieve a financial goal. Like, the budget is literally central to everything. And for me, I know my budget. So I know how much my bills are every month. I know how much my mortgage is every month. I know how much spending money I've got allocated. I know how much money I want to put like into investing. I know how much money I just want to keep as cash. It helps me. In fact, I think the most important thing about budgeting, it helps me feel comfortable with my finances.
Yeah.
Because I budget, when I look at my bank account, I'm not scared. I'm not scared to look at it. When I spend, I'm not scared. I'm like, all right, cool. When I looked at any debts I've got to pay, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I'm aware of it because it lets you, for me, it's like you're facing your finance mortality. Honestly, it's one of the scariest things ever to do. And once you get comfortable with it, you think to yourself, why was I ever worried about that? Why was I running away from that? For me, back in the days when I used to go out in Shoreditch, I always use Shoreditch because that's where I used to spend the most amount of money. But there used to be days where I would go out a night out and I would deliberately not check my bank account the next day because I was so ashamed to see how much I spent. So I just avoid the issue. And it got so bad that, you know, when you go to a shop or you go to a cash machine and you can't withdraw any money because you haven't checked your account because you're avoiding everything. So budgeting is key to understanding how your money is being spent. And if you don't have that oversight, it's going to be very easy for you to not meet your financial goals, for you to be able to get into debt and for you not to be able to save. So it's very important.
Yeah, definitely. I had someone from The Apprentice come on and a few weeks ago, and they said something similar about like money blocks, and it's just that idea of like being scared of talking about money, even if you're like talking to yourself in that sense. Like it, like you said, you're scared to open like your banking app the next morning because you don't want to see like a massive chunk come out or whatever. And yeah, I've had that so many times where I can't even look at it, and you just get yourself into more and more trouble because you're just, like you said, avoiding the issue. And I know so many people that have gone into their overdraft that way and have sort of stayed in their overdraft and got even more deep into the overdraft. So yeah, what's your thoughts on overdrafts? How detrimental are they, or are they not?
You know, very detrimental. Again, I feel like I've got every sort of story. So yeah, I had an issue with overdrafts as well. I was living in my overdraft for about a year, but luckily it was interest free. But then it got to a point, you know, with student overdrafts, at some point the banks are going to say to you, look, we're not giving you interest free anymore. So that debt story that I was talking about was linked to that because basically Santander gave me 3 months lead time and said, look, by September, we're going to start charging you interest. And I had like more than $1,000 in there. So I was like, shit, what am I going to do? Like, I'm in a bad spot. And I think the thing with overdrafts and not checking your bank account is the fact that you don't want to deal with the issue. You don't want to deal that you're not a bad person because you're spending much. You just don't want to deal with your spending habits. And that's why I say I think it's like staring at your finance mortality, because you're scared to face yourself. You're scared to face who you are as a person when it comes to spending and looking after your finances. And honestly, I think part of that is, like you said, I think people are just uncomfortable with talking about money. But when it comes to talking about, you know, I don't know, how much you make, it's very easy for you to talk about that. You can boast about that. But when it comes to talking about how much debts you've got, how much is in your bank account, you just curling a ball. And I just feel like with things like overdrafts, when you don't address it, it's very easy for it to just continue going on. And when you're not disciplined, you'll just keep on overspending, and you'll never get out of it. And it can have an adverse impact on your credit rating if you don't get out one. So yeah, that's my views on it.
And it makes me think then, like, uni students, the amount of debt naturally they go into, because I was fortunate enough to go to a uni that was 2 days a week. So the rest of the week I could work, which was a massive, massive blessing, because it means that even though I wasn't earning much, I just wasn't eating away into my overdraft and getting into the trouble that you described there. So it makes me wonder, what's your opinions on uni as a whole and the way the whole system is, like, because it basically pressures people into getting into debt. Or do you think there's a way around that? Can you sort of go through uni like 5 days a week, lectures, and come out in a healthy, stable position? Or do you think you sort of have to dip a little bit and hold on as much as you can?
I think uni is one of those things that it's okay. So we got the term in personal finance called good debt and bad debt. For me, I would argue to a certain extent, university is a good debt because you get higher education out of it. You can potentially get a good job that can potentially pay off some of that university fees. I think the issue becomes when the university fees are really high. You may never have a chance to ever pay it off. You're basically paying it off for 30 years. And then the habits that you get into whilst you're at uni. So you're not working. So how can you even sustain yourself? The student loan is nowhere near enough. So then you're borrowing money. So then you're getting into debt. So actually the student loan isn't really too much the problem. It's actually everything else that comes with it. The overdraft, the loans, the payday loans, the credit cards and stuff like that, because you're over leveraging yourself and you're trying to, have fun whilst you're at uni. So I think uni in itself isn't a bad thing. I think the fact at uni is they don't teach us how to be financially responsible in it, so that when we do finish university, we come out in a good place. We don't have like thousands of pounds in overdraft. We don't have £1,000 on a credit card. So yeah, we don't get taught that at university. When I was at uni, in my first year, I deliberately didn't want to work because I was like, my first year, I wanted to job. It got so bad for me. At one point, I had to borrow money from family and friends. And then I actually did studies to get money, like £10, £20.
Wow.
And it's not like I didn't use it on even like, sometimes I use it on bills, but I use it to go out. So that's how reckless. I was reckless. I was really reckless. So, having said that, it just shows you that this thing is really important, but it's something that, it would be really, really useful if universities could help us understand, look, when you join uni, you've got this student loan. It's more than likely that when you finish, you're going to have pay some of the student loan off. But whilst you're at uni, why don't you set up a budget so you know how much rent you have? Why don't you try and get a part-time job so that you don't have to, pay for a loan or credit card and stuff like that? So yeah, the uni is it can be a trap. It can be a debt trap if you're not careful. Definitely.
How do you think we can change that then? Do you think it has to be at uni level? Because people come into my secondary school like in the last year, I think it was, or like sixth form or whenever it was, like that sort of period, and they tried to come in and talk about these things. But one, I think like we mentioned just before the call, like none of us knew what the terms meant, and they were speaking in this jargon. So it was literally just like the knowledge was coming and just going straight over our heads. It was like, we know you're talking, but we have no idea what you're talking about. You're talking about something about loans and how to do this and how to do that, but it's just not sticking. And you can just tell the whole class, that none of them was taking it on board, and none of them was actually going to do what the guy was saying. So I feel like perhaps even at secondary level, sixth form level, it's either too early or too late, if that makes sense. I feel like if you're going to go in at that level, you need the prior knowledge. You need the knowledge and understanding of basic finances throughout secondary school to lead you up to that moment. So you can say, okay, that's what we learned before. Now this is how I will apply it. And then you go into uni applying it. I don't know. What's your thoughts on how we can target people in the right way?
Yeah, no, it's funny you said that because I've been thinking about it as well. And I think the younger, the better. Not too young, but young enough, old enough for them to understand like the practical aspects of it. Like for example, my nephew is asking me for trainers, right? So he knows those trainers cost money.
Yeah.
So it's about giving them a practical understanding of how, I guess from their perspective, their world, how it would work. So for them, they value like materialistic stuff, which is understandable. They're young, they can't afford anything else. But as long as we give them the basics of, okay, if I was to give you £10, what would you spend it on, right? What's if you needed to pay a bill at the end of the week? What would you do, to pay that bill? So we have to just be able to give them practical understandings. I think when you come with all these finance jargons, you're going to get bored. I would have been bored. I would be like, what are you talking about? Yeah. You need to come to my world. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to go to their world, understand what their priorities are, and then give them practical examples around that. Because I think by the time you're more or less 16, if you can basically rent by yourself at 16.
Yeah.
But more or less by then, you should really know, like, what's happening. Unless you're very lucky and you don't get yourself into debt, you could be very unlucky and just not progress. So I think the younger the better. I think really age wise, year 7 might be too young. Maybe year 9, year 10, more or
Yeah,
less,
yeah,
would be a good part. But it's really about like understanding who they are. Because I was asking my nephew, like, do you know much about this and that? And they rightly said no, they don't. So I'm trying to figure a way out of, okay, but you asked me for trainers, right? Do you
yeah.
know how much these trainers cost? For them, they don't understand the value of money, and you want them to understand it. When they understand the value of money, they will take it more seriously. But if you go through life thinking, trainers should be £200, that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
It's giving them that understanding of money, I think.
No, definitely. That's a good point. There's one thing that I had to write down because I wanted to mention it
Mm.
just to see if you knew of anything similar, because I think it's now been stopped. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was like a house, a mortgage ISA, like
Mm.
help to buy ISA. Is that right?
Excellent.
Yeah,
Lifetime
yeah.
accident.
And it stopped last year, right? And I think I got it the month before it stopped.
Mm.
And every month I put £200 in.
Yeah.
And I wondered what your thoughts are on that. And do you know of anything similar, or how we can sort of replicate that now that it's been shut down? How can young people save up for these houses?
Yeah. So Help to Buy ISA is very similar to another product called a Lifetime ISA. I think that's the reason why they shut it down. So the Help to Buy ISA, it was a really good scheme because you get a certain amount of money from the government when you want to purchase a property. I think the difference between Help to Buy ISA and a Lifetime ISA is that Help to Buy ISA, you can only put a certain amount, even though you could put in both is a certain amount. The Lifetime ISA gives you more.
Yeah.
And with the Help to Buy ISA, they don't actually give you the bonus until I think you get to near the completion stage. So it was a really good product, but now they still have this other product called the Lifetime ISA. It's very, very similar. The only difference being is that you can save up to £4,000 every tax year. They give you £1,000, they pay it into your account basically on the months that you put in. So it's every tax year, by the way, that they do this. They've got an age limit as well. I think from 18 to 40, if memory serves me correct. The stipulations, though, are that you have to spend the money on your first house. So it's only really for first-time buyers.
Yeah.
Or for a pension. If you try to withdraw the money, you get a charge of minus 25%. I think currently it's minus 20% because of the coronavirus. So that's another thing for if you're looking to go on a housing ladder and you're very serious about it, that's something else that you should definitely go for. And that was something that I used that helped me out. I got about £3,000 from the government for that, and it was great. And you can also, if you want to, you can transfer your Help to Buy ISA previously if you manage to get one into a Lifetime ISA as well. So that's something for people to look forward to.
Thank you so much. I might do that, because I thought there must be something similar. Like, there's no way they can just stop it dead and like not have anything similar. So yeah, I'll definitely do that. And anyone listening, if you missed the boat, you probably didn't even hear of it. To be fair, I was very lucky to like sort of find out about it like a couple of months before, and like, I made it a mission, like make sure I set that up right before it ends, and I did. So yeah, very, very grateful for that. But now you've got the Lifetime ISA, you can
you got a Lifetime ISA,
you can go and sort that out. And what's your opinions on buying a house? Because as you was talking there, it made me realize like my whole life as a young adult is like set up to get my first house, and like all my savings is like, okay, this is for the house, and anything I do is all directed to the house. Is that right? Like, I know it's a case by case basis, but like, I don't know, like, am I doing it right? Should I be aiming for a house or what?
It's an age old question. I think I think in the UK we're really proud and we want to own our own properties, and we're really fixated on owning a property. And I do understand the arguments for, why bother renting when you could just buy your own house and you can pay off the property and then get some equity out of it. So I get it. I think in your case, I think buying a house makes sense if you definitely are not interested in maybe like investing in the stock market. You want to potentially save on how much rent you're paying each month, because mortgages are typically supposed to be cheaper than paying a rent. And also if you I guess you want to stay in one place long term, because buying and selling isn't so quick as moving out and renting. If you told me like next year you want to move out to, you know, somewhere else, to Canada or somewhere like that, then I might be like, okay, maybe you should rent and just save all your capital. So I do get it. Like, people do get worried because it's like, okay, all your money is going into one asset. But I think personally, I think it's a good starting point. I think it's a good starting point to get yourself onto the housing ladder, because once you do, you can do other things from there. You know, yes, all your money's in there, but you can, in the future, you can take money out of that and put it into other things. So, you know, there is no right way, but it's whatever is right for you. So I would say in your situation, yeah, I think is a good thing to aspire to, and you know, you'll be happy that you did, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like we said at the very beginning, it's more of a long-term thing, isn't it? Like if you're planning to do something, know that it'll take time, but it's like little steps. Like obviously it's a massive step getting a house, but like you said, once you've got that, you're secure, then you can move on to whatever's next, whether it's investing or whether you just want to splash any other cash you get on cars or whatever. I feel like it gives you the option to do that because you've got literally a roof over your head, you know.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing, you know, some people do say, oh, don't bother buying a house, you're putting all your money into it. But for me personally, you're giving yourself the chance to grow your wealth by buying your own property. Yes, okay, it might not be income generating, but it's possible that you can make it income generating. If you get a 3-bedroom house, you get a 2-bedroom house, you can let out one of the rooms, that room can be paying off your mortgage, and you'll be basically living rent free. So there are ways for you to leverage that. So I feel like sometimes people spread false information. Oh, you're better off renting and then buying a rental property and then renting that out. But you're paying rent too at the same time, right? I would only say don't buy somewhere if you need the flexibility to be able to move somewhere else. But yes, okay, you might be paying off something, but you're paying off your mortgage, you're paying off your own property, and you're building value in your house, and that means you're building your wealth. So for me, I think that's a really positive thing. So yeah.
Perfect. Last couple of questions. I know we're short on time. I could speak to you all day and draw all the knowledge, but I know we're short on time. So last couple. Say I'm a young person, which I am. Say if I had £1,000, say what would you advise that person putting that grand into? Would you advise dividing it up into small things? Would you advise holding on to that as much as that grand as possible? What would you advise?
So if you had £1,000, right, the very first thing I'd ask you is, do you have an emergency fund? If you don't have an emergency fund, I would say commit all of that grand into your emergency fund so that you can basically be prepared for a rainy day, like what's happened with the coronavirus, where people have been laid off and, you know, they're trying to figure out how do they pay off their rent. Now, if you said to me that you do have an emergency fund, then I'll say to you, okay, I would definitely split that money into investing. I'd okay, let's say about 20% into maybe stocks and funds. 40% into stocks and stocks funds, 25% into commodities, and then 15% or more into like, basically you can invest in real estate investment trust, which is basically another way to invest in property, and then keep the rest as cash just in case, you know, you want to take up an opportunity. So that's what I would suggest to people to do with £1,000.
That makes sense. So hold on to the majority for safety and use the rest. Don't sort of, because I know a lot of people, like we said earlier with the trading, they've got £1,000 and they'll spend £1,000 on a trading course or a trading. It's like, no, you're doing it wrong. Like, because what happens when the likely thing of that trading thing failing happens, and you've got no money. Like, at least if you had £2,000 and you split £1,000, then fair enough, you're still nuts. But yeah, go for it. But you know, yeah, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense for that.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. We're so quick to, oh, we've got £1,000, let me do something with it. No, save that. Have that safety net. And you don't have to worry about something happening. And then if an emergency happens, you're prepared for it. I would always say, always prepare for emergencies. So I say to people, try to keep at least 3 months worth of expenses in your bank account as cash. And if you really want to be prepared, 6 months, just in case. Or even say like, you're like, okay, look, I'm tired of my job. I just want to take a holiday for 2 weeks and do something else. You have that emergency fund to be able to do that. But then you get people like, oh, I want to leave my job. I hate my job. And they just feel stuck because you haven't set anything aside. So therefore you can't even leave. So it's good for those two cases, really.
Yeah, definitely. Last thing then. What's a common mistake you see young people do? And we've spoken about a lot of good pieces of advice and a lot of things you should avoid. But is there anything perhaps you did or you see young people doing that is just like a typical mistake, like in terms of money and finances and just basically getting your life on track?
One or a lot? Shall I say everything?
If you try and pick like one, or if there's one that stands out, or one or two, it's up to you.
For me, what I'm seeing right now in the trading thing is fear of missing out and greed. I think that is the number one mistake for people losing money. So this happened with cryptocurrency a few years ago, I think 2018. Everybody wanted to jump onto the Bitcoin hype and say, oh, borrow me money to invest into Bitcoin. The same thing is happening now with penny stocks and just the stock market. We just have a lot of people just wanting to spend their money and then ultimately lose money because of that. So yeah, I think that's a common mistake that a lot of people do. They're investing in something that they actually don't understand how it works because the price is moving up because more and more people are investing in it. So I would say that was the number one mistake.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for saying that. A lot of people, hopefully that will sort of alert a lot of people and they'll sort of wake up.
So.
Yeah, hopefully, innit? But yeah, final thing, what's next for you personally, and what's next for Savvy Wallet as a page, as a group? Do you have plans to sort of develop it more or just continue as it is, or what's next?
Yeah, so as I was saying before, I've got this event that I'm speaking at in 2 weeks. I'm going to be speaking about debt alongside other panelists are going to be speaking about investing, property, cryptocurrency. It's going to be really good. But for me personally, what I want to do with it is so I've got a friend that wants me to start speaking at his school, and I'm looking to develop a program, hopefully for different schools to basically just help educate them on their financial literacy. I want to like sort of build that up all the way to university because I think it's really needed, which is why I was speaking about it so much, because it's already something that's been on my mind. I also want to release a few books, but that'll probably be in a few years. And hopefully soon we get our own website coming up too, so that I can have a bit more long form information, because the videos are good, the posts are good, but there's so much more information and help that I want to give out. So yeah, those are what I'm looking at the moment, and hopefully we can do more things.
Brilliant. And what do you want your legacy to be? Have you thought that far ahead? Do you want to be known as the guy, do you want to be known as the guy that saves thousands of kids from like financial debt, or what do you want to be known as?
I just want to be known as somebody who helped you with your financial literacy and opened your eyes to the world, because I think when I got that enlightening, my world has changed. I've never been so comfortable with my finances since. So yeah, I want to help people to get to the point where, oh yeah, Savvy Wallet helped me like figure out my, get my budgets, help me save, help me, be comfortable, start learning, investing and things like that. So yeah, that's what I would want my legacy to be.
Brilliant. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. Honestly, like I said, I could have stayed for hours and taken all your knowledge. But yeah, no, thank you so much. The floor's now yours. If there's anything you'd like to say to the audience listening, or anything you think we missed out, please do say now.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Just to say,
Right.
it's been really good to speak on here. If you're interested, you can have a look at my page on Instagram, so Savvy Wallet. I'm also on Twitter. I'm trying to build my following a bit more there, Savvy Wallet 1, and I'm also on YouTube, Savvy Wallet. So we talk about everything about personal finance. So we talk about investing, we talk about saving, we talk about budgeting, we talk about credit as well. So we try and teach you and try and make you feel comfortable about finance in a jargon-free way. So yeah, that's everything from me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Okay, bye.
If only they knew, the hub for young business minds.